I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation. And Andrew Kuo is basking. Just basking in Gen X tranquility. Andrew, how are you, man?
If someone could want tranquility more than me, I'd be surprised. I am just chilling. It's been such a relaxing weekend. I've been watching the news and we're back. Like everyone's happy, everyone's cool.
You ready to talk about some basketball?
Yeah, basketball's coming back, and for some reason everyone's Instagram is broken. I just see a black box everywhere.
Interesting.
Maybe you can help me out with that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go to someone else for some help on this topic.
Please,
and it's
please.
Our favorite guest,
Yes.
Nikki.
Hi.
What's
Welcome.
up, Nikki?
Hello, guys. Nice to see you. Nice to hear from you.
Yes,
I
it's
wish
been
I could
too
see you,
long.
but nice to hear from you.
It's been, let's say, 6 months, maybe more. What's new? What's new in the world? Anything changed?
Well, I don't know if you know, but everyone's on vacation.
Oh, sounds relaxing.
Yeah, the government finally let us cash in our PTO. So now we're all home collecting below minimum wage. But we all decided, the world decided to go on a mental health break.
There's so much wellness right now.
There's so much wellness in the world right now.
Is America living in the present? It's so present.
Is America alive? Is America alive? Like, if we're a patient at the hospital, the question is America actually alive?
It's more alive than ever.
Now that we've all left behind our unwanted jobs and we're all at home, suckling at the governmental teat, we can become a nation of poets. That's what we are here now, a nation of poets.
Oh my God. I am actually, it's funny you say that. I'm not, I don't endorse productivity in a pandemic, but I have been working on
Good call.
a project just as something else to do other than eat cereal and stare out the window.
Oh, wait, so take us through your aversion to productivity during a pandemic. How did you arrive at that?
Basically, what happened was I woke up, I looked on Instagram, I saw a bunch of people using the word productivity. I got sick to my stomach. I decided to stop doing that.
Productivity cops. Maybe the police.
I just want to say, seeing things on Instagram that make you sick and not participating in them is pandemic 101. Pandemic, protest 101, life 101. Like,
sounds like some big Gen X tranquility moves over here. I love it.
It's very sad.
I'm not on Instagram as much as Twitter, and I've seen people lose their minds over the past couple months, increasingly so. On Twitter, is that happening on IG as well? Is it as visible in that same way?
It is visible on IG, and I think it's actually more deranged because it's just imaging. So like
right.
The image creates an emotion in the people, and then if it's not captioned, that can leave people with a different emotion. And then based on the caption, there's layers to it. Do you know what I mean? Like Twitter, you just read it and you're like, I don't like that, or I like that, or that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't understand it. But Instagram, you're like, oh, there's a picture. I can decipher that for myself. And then there's a caption that
it's a different skill
is in
set,
accordance.
Right?
Exactly. It's like 3 or 4. It's a lot of more layers of deductive reasoning on Instagram. So it's way more deranged because you're just like,
I like the ones that are really discordant, where you have someone like on a boat or on vacation or sitting in a cafe in Paris. It's like a nice selfie where they look attractive, and then the message is something about like changing the world or society. Those are my favorites.
Those are my favorite as well.
I kind of just want to put up this photo of myself in a bathing suit, but it's got to be meaningful. I got to say something with
I
this.
think we can all agree that the Notes app is doing numbers right now.
Yeah.
Like nobody's getting more visibility than the Notes app right now. Like your
Man.
Notes app is working overtime. Like
With that
it's-
little texture, that little bevel, like that little
Yeah.
fake like imprint. Yeah, man.
My favorite is watching the different ways that people figure out how to make it look more organic. So like some people do the headings. Some people like screenshot it so that it's like, like a perfect square image. Like
Yeah.
it's just
I mean, we're veering towards sort of the boomer tactic of like, all right, send me an email, I'll print it up, then I'll scan it, then I will take a photo of it, and then I will
Dip
email
it in
it back
tea.
to you.
Yeah. Which was Instagram's entire conceit in the beginning, right? They wanted to take your photos and make like antiquify them. I forgot the word. But that was their original idea.
they wanted to put newspaper print around your photo.
Exactly, man. They wanted to turn your photo of Coachella into a daguerreotype.
Guys, I'm still on Hipstamatic, and everything seems cool.
Oh shit. Yo,
The
you know
world is
what?
good.
You know what?
It's still 2008. Everything is fantastic. We're listening to Phoenix. Life is good.
Nice.
Oh my god. I'm about to
Hurricane
go-
Chris is just coming up.
I was like, can you guys meet me on the roof for a fader event before we go out for the night?
Red Stripe. Yo, is Sham gonna show up? I don't know.
Look, there's a lot of chaos over on Instagram. We're just over here listening to MIA.
Correct.
We're at McCarran Park, and it's not a silent vigil.
Dude, you guys just made me so wistful. Like,
I
I'm
know.
like, that sounds so awesome.
I'm like,
Big
remember?
whist.
I'm like, remember remember life? Oh, remember when going to the club was actually going outside and not like being in the comments with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris being like, I too like this freaking Heavy D record.
I mean, now
Jesus.
normcore is just like not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Remember meeting friends like that? It's like I'm ironically hanging out with my friends,
I know, but 6 feet apart. That's
like
what
an old person.
That's what makes Instagram so unhinged. It's that you have to interpret your photos now. Like it used to be on Instagram, you could just, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, like you could just put a photo and be like, no, I was thinking about Black lives. Can't you see the pensive like crease in my forehead? And now you have to be like, hi, this is me stopping at my friend's house with 12 feet of distance between us. I am wearing proper PPE and we did not touch each other. I swear.
And it also always accompanies a photo of 5 people not social distancing. Be like, don't worry, no. Don't
worry,
get
we're
upset.
all on-
we are social distancing.
My favorite is when people
Clearly.
go to the park and they sit like on a towel that's like 4 feet in width, and they're all sitting on the towel, and they're like social distance, and I'm like, right, sure, okay,
Emotionally.
yeah. But I also think one of the things that I've been divesting myself of is judging and policing what people are doing, and it's really hard when you can see it, which is why I've been staying off of Instagram, which is my general advice once again from most people is to like, it's much easier to stop reacting to things caustically if you take the initiative to curb how much you look at them.
There are enough things that are worthy of bothering you.
Correct.
Too many people on a towel.
But it's also
Probably is
just
not
like
one
you
of them.
can't help yourself if you follow 300 people and you're watching 300 people make noise about the same thing for 3 days. Like, yeah, you're going to get to a point where you're just like snapping at everyone. It's like everyone's been in your house talking for 3 days.
This is a skill. I mean, sorry to interrupt. Like, this is a skill that we kind of talk about here all the time. I think dealing with social media, watching the news, being able to drown out anything that isn't empirical to you is like a skill that people all think they have, but it's like using your phone or knowing how to use Twitter. It's like it's not inherent. Using Instagram is not something everyone should know how to do, and I think it could drive people to insanity, and being able to drown that out is something you have to learn, right?
Yeah. It's something you also have to be vigilant with for yourself, which is hard for people. Like, it's not, and this is not to say people are weak. It's not to blame on people. Instagram is literally created to addict you. Like, you know what I mean? It's muscle memory. Like, I have to delete my app when I don't want to be on Instagram because my fingers will still go to, like, my thumb will still go to where my Instagram app is before I can actually think about the fact that
It's
I'm
really
going on Instagram.
crazy. It's so crazy. I'll shut down Twitter and then open it again.
Correct. Even though you know that there's no new joke.
Like, I've literally been like, oh, I'm sick of this shit. Shut down, and then I hit it again, and it opens up.
Correct,
I'm like,
because it's
I'm like,
muscle
what is
memory.
this muscle memory?
Think about this. I haven't been on the app for Twitter in 3 years. I've been using Twitter through the web page on my phone. And I'm so
Amazing.
good at it that, like, I have to actually actively keep myself from opening the page up every day. And now they have that new thing on iMessage where, like, if you open your Safari, it, like, loads up all the links that your friends have already sent you in your iMessage. So it's even easier for you to, like, open your Safari onto a blank page and, like, 3 Twitter links from the last, like, whatever jokes from the group chat are just sitting right there for you to just click on.
And this is where the adaptability of the human brain is both like a gift and a curse. Because maybe our brains can adapt to this in a good way. Maybe. But our natural instincts are to adapt in this in an addictive way.
Well, not at all. It's not even our natural instincts. We're in a capitalism. Like, they have created it so that our habits are based on being addictive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly.
So it's like
yes.
you can't even naturally fight it because there are people who are actively, like, reading. You know what I mean? It's like somebody's, like, actively following you around and taking notes on what you're doing, and you're like, I'm trying to evade you. Like, I'm really trying to evade you.
Absolutely. And you remember from, the media industry that used to exist back in the glory days of McCarran Park, the phrase that was used a lot was stickiness. And that was like, how do you keep someone on your website? How do you get them to click another link? And we were doing that like cave people. Okay, just like the same topic. Another thing about, I don't know, Pabst Blue Ribbon. And they'll click on that one. It's so much more sophisticated and appealing to exactly those instincts that we're talking about. Our natural inclinations towards clicking the next link are based on their algorithms, their permutations. Like, we can't help it.
I've been having a conversation. I've been having a conversation with my algorithm and with my AI. Like, I'm on the market for a new pair of glasses, so I just spoke into my phone like, "Hey, I want new glasses. New glasses sound nice. New glasses." And in my feed now on Instagram, I have all these like new Warby Parker lights, like advertising some new frames for my drip whenever we get out of this.
Whoa, I do that all the time. I do that all the time. Like, whenever I'm like, damn, I want some new shoes, but I don't want to look for new shoes, I just, like, click on a couple shoe accounts, like, one time. Like, I open it, and I'm like, okay, Madewell shoe or something like that. And then I just let the Instagram do the rest of the work for me. But also understand, like, we're telling ourselves that we're playing with the algorithm, but I'm also just giving it what it already knows about me,
Totally.
So it's like, but yeah, I do that on Spotify. When I want to hear pop music on Spotify, I do that.
Quo and I will make jokes about grill masters on this show, and then my phone's over like, and all of a sudden I'm getting things for like Weber hibachis.
Oh yeah, it's because of we're making jokes. Are you a secret grill master?
I wish. I've never wanted outdoor space more in my life.
You know what's so funny?
Serious?
It's like better for me to think of it as like my phone is listening to me than to consider the actual truth of everything I do is so data mined that you can predict what I want before I can. Which is kind of a little bit of what's happening.
So speaking of this social media insanity, the newest rage,
Oh, Lord.
for lack of a better word, is the black box on Instagram. It is a way of showing solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and the protesters, allegedly. And what it has meant is that now the Black Lives Matter tag is essentially a thousands and thousands and thousands of black blank screens.
Right.
Was this counterproductive?
Yes. But not for all the reasons that everyone is going to cry about on Twitter. Not to say cry as to demean them, but like people tend to, one of the other things that's happening on Twitter right now is like every emotion is like heightened to the like extreme of the emotion because we're all using language. So like everyone's like, I'm about to scream, when like really they're just like, wow, this is really frustrating, and like I don't have a place to like tell someone why this is wrong. But
Right,
it is
like
I do
Right.
find it to be counterproductive. And the reason I find it to be counterproductive goes beyond the actual machinations of how it was done or what it's supposed to do, but rather than I feel like I can't speak for the people who organized it. I don't know them. I don't want to. I see people that I know and have loved for a long time supporting it and trying to explain to people what's going on. So it's not to say that I think these people are dumb. I think that's really reductive of everyone to be acting like they're stupid. But here's the problem. Wait, can I curse on this podcast?
Oh, yes.
Let it
Why
rip.
the literal fuck would the revolution start with the music industry? Are you dumb? Why the fuck would it start there? And I don't understand it. This is like when people in fashion are like, how will we in the fashion industry help black lives? What? You guys like throw parties where you drink like $50 glasses of like weird ass like alcohol. Like, why would the revolution start in fashion? What does fashion have to do with the poor black people who die on the streets? What does the music industry have to do with them? And they're like, oh, we're doing this to start a conversation with music execs. What conversation? The only conversation right now is... The only conversation right now is, are you going to get in the streets? Are you going to open your purse? Are you going to educate? Are you going to support? That's what we're doing right now. When the time comes to make capitalism ethical, then we'll get to that. But right now, what we're doing is mobilizing, organizing, educating, and giving people space to grieve, mourn, be in pain. Like, nobody cares about the music industry. That is not the industry that is going to lead a revolution that is trying to defund police, abolish police, and save people's lives and restructure the government. Like, this is class privilege. This is what people are talking about. This is a guilt of class privilege. I get it. We're all getting to sit in our apartments, and we have to still work on marketing initiatives, and we still have to figure out how artists are going to let their albums out because we still need money to pay our rent and to pay off our debt. I get that. But you are not in the streets, and the people who are in the streets do not give a crap about what Jimmy Iovine is going to do with Apple and Beats. Who gives a fuck? Like, how is that going to change literal policing on the ground? Start there. Do it because you need to do the stuff on the ground. And then you can worry about how to make your industry or your category or whatever your little specialty. Like, that's like me sitting around as a screenwriter and being like, what's the movie I can write to make this better now? No, that's not the time right now. Like, and you're doing this in the middle of a protest and a movement that is just gaining steam in such a really dope way. We're watching people actually force themselves to read. We're watching people use terms like defund the police, which they've never used before. We're watching people learn that, like, I can say rioting, I can say looting, and that's the point. That's what this is supposed to be about. And you're like, oh yeah, we need to start a conversation about microaggressions in meeting rooms. Like, there's time for that, but now is not the time for that. And so this is what I'm saying. Everyone's sitting here and like, everyone's going to argue about it. You know, the people who are mad are going to talk down to the people who organized it. The people who organized it are going to get defensive and say that we're not listening. But the point that everyone is missing is like, nobody needs to be, the revolution is not going to start in your category. The uprising is not going to start like in your office. Nobody cares about that. Like, care about what we're actually doing right now. And like, if you did that, then you would see that putting a black box on Instagram means nothing for the moment. For the moment.
But the spirit is something that is okay, right? Like,
yeah, of course. Like, I understand wanting to make people feel like they can make a change in their daily life, in like how they're doing it. But what I'm saying to you is recognize the privilege in that. Mm-hmm. Someone who is my brother I think about this. I live in Hollywood. I live in an apartment by myself. I've been in quarantine by myself in a 1-bedroom. I have wonderful light. I have a great view. I order my groceries. Like, I'm being real right now. I order my groceries. I order my weed. I FaceTime my friends. I walk to the bodega and get some alcohol. My family in New York used to be 7 people in a 2-bedroom.
Right.
So, because a bunch of my family came from Haiti. So, my brother, my mom, and my cousins they didn't have the luxury that I have to be able to just like sit in my house. So when I talk about coronavirus and I talk about the pandemic, I'm not thinking about myself because I'm fine. I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about my mom who works in a hospital. I'm thinking about my aunts who are all working in a hospital. I'm thinking about, my cousins who people who have siblings, who have like wives and children and have to live with 3 people in a home. Like, I'm making decisions based on what they need and what those people need. Like, I would never turn around and be like, oh, you guys need to make a decision that benefits me, even though I'm sitting up in my house, laying up, chilling. So it's the same thing. It's like, your work is not meaningless. I understand that you have put a lot of who you are into what you're doing in music and whatever, but what we're talking about right now has nothing to do with music sales. It has nothing to do with capitalism. It has nothing to do with restructuring the system that we are literally trying to fight and scream about right now. And I just can't understand why anyone can't look at it and step back and be like, whoa, you're right. I don't need Beats music to have internal conversations right now. I need to cash in my PTO and go sit outside, or stop emailing my boss until my boss has a real conversation about tell my boss, like, I'm not participating until you really bring this up in a real way. But come on.
One thing that I've kind of noticed is that there's an inclination from everyone to kind of take their eye off the ball here. Mm-hmm. And, it happens in the way of people saying, all right, I'm going to apply this to myself. How do I fit into this equation?
Yeah.
But it also happens when we're looking at the media coverage of what's happening on the street. And there's an infatuation with shoplifting and vandalism and broken glass. And you see it happening. First, it comes, of course, from the law and order types, but then there's a litigation of what's the right and wrong way of protesting. Mm-hmm. And these lines in the sand keep getting drawn. And, well, it's okay to be peaceful, but you can't do this. And then that line gets crossed, and then it peels off sort of a moderate who says, I was with the protesters. I'm all for justice, but you know what? They broke into Kith. And that's where my line gets drawn. And I feel like even people who are perhaps well-intentioned are susceptible to losing their focus. This is about police violence. It's about police violence against black people. It's about inequality. It's about injustice. And when people start arguing about what happened at the Trek bike store, whether that was right or wrong, and trying to decipher who did what. Oh, well, that was an anarchist. Oh, that guy, he was just a 15-year-old. Well, that was a white supremacist who was wearing a costume. Like, I just want us to opt out. I want to opt out of that discussion about the side effects, about broken property.
Well, this is the thing. People don't even realize that they're feeding into they're delegitimizing what they're trying to say. So my thing is, I retweeted this and I posted it on Instagram. And this lady Danielle, I think it's her name, Danny Cal is her name. She said, like, you guys you're more comfortable with arguing the individual actions of black people rather than taking on the structural power dynamic that we're trying to bring down. So it's very easy for people to sit around and tell you that while you're protesting, you have to watch out for every single small and black business out there, as if the point of protesting is not to hold space for your rage and your inability to go on with your day. That's the point. That's all the point is. Everything else that happens after protest can be rebuilt, can be fixed, can be whatever. But like, the point of protest is to hold space. Like, all the things that all the white friends who keep texting people being like, I'm trying to hold space for you. This is what holding space is. It's like, I'm going to allow you to go outside and scream because you need to scream. And I'm going to support you, because I understand that you don't even know how you feel in your own body right now. That's how freaking enraged you are. So I'm going to stand behind you and give you space to, like, really let that out, because I think that why you're mad is real, and I think you deserve to be this mad. That's all it is. Period. The problem is, like you said, people become, everyone wants to have an opinion. People become really, they want to, like, all of a sudden everyone wants to be a hero. Everyone knows how much I hate heroism. Like, everyone wants to be a hero. So everyone's seeing the footage and they want to be the hero that, like, From Home adds something to it, you know? Oh, from home I can spot an anarchist. Oh, from home I'm spreading the messaging that is coming from the streets. But what people don't realize is this isn't organized protest. It shouldn't be. It's happening in real time. It's impulsive. It shouldn't be organized. So you have to understand that if you're spreading the information from home, you have an even more of a duty to double check it. And if that means finding some people who are outside to text them, that's what you need to be doing. Because you don't get to sit at home and think that because you have more time to read through more noise, you somehow are just as good or know what's going on the ground. And that's
it's
my
like
problem.
arguing over fire.
Correct.
Like this cleansing by fire. And guys, I spotted a stray ash over there that we're gonna have to address. Something got burned over aside from the grill that the grill masters have set up. Like, no, this is a fire. Some shit's gonna get burned. Like, we're not negotiating the parts of the fire. It's a
Correct.
fire.
And the loss of focus is really it. Like, there's like people will make up all these things like, oh, we can't do this, we shouldn't do that. Like, here's the thing about the black box thing, right? I'll say this right now. Okay, so the black box thing is misguided, right? And I'm gonna repeat again. It is a showing of guilt of class privilege. Point blank, period. And if the people who hear that are mad, I ask them to take 30 minutes to really think about it before they argue with me. But like, we know that it's that, right? But here's the question. Why are white people jumping in so hard to tell two black women they did something wrong? Like, if you accept that you don't know what you're doing yet and you need to hold space for people to organize, then that means that you need to hold space for people to make mistakes, especially considering white people don't even want to make the mistakes to start the journey. So I find it crazy that everyone is also jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, whatever black people yell at, I should yell at too. Come on, have a little self-awareness. That's just not your lane. It just isn't. Like, if you want to say, yo, that seems a little bizarre to me, blah, 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 here's what that's on you. But like, the fact that I'm watching like people who are not black jump down the throats of these black people for this mistake that they're making or this thing that they're doing that didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, that's also crazy to me.
No, you're referring to, say, like breaking glass or vandalism, or are you talking about something specific?
I'm talking specifically like even about like this like media, like the social media challenge, like all this stuff that we're doing. Like, there's space for us to correct each other. There's space for us to be like, wow, that wasn't ineffective, but that still should be done within the boundaries and the lines of what your lane and your role is in whatever we're doing. So if you're someone who's like, this is my first time speaking up for black issues, and this is my like first time really engaging, and this is my first time protesting, this is my first time learning, you don't need to be the police. How could you be a trusted source of what is a looter, what is an anarchist, what is Antifa? Like, I'm seeing people talk about Antifa like they're the KKK. And I'm like, do you guys forget what that means? It just means anti-fascist. It means the people that are willing to get out here and punch racist people in the face.
People were yelling about skaters. I was like, skaters are not a monolith, but also skaters are great.
I'm like, yo, skaters
are people.
What
I'm
if
like-
they're longboards though?
Ooh, longboarders are cops.
Here's the
But
thing.
they work better.
Black
when they go through a
skaters-
cop windshield.
Black skaters have always existed and have always been telling y'all that it's racism in skating like racism in anything else. Like, it's not like some sort of special type of racism in skater. Like, it's the same racism that's in frats. It's the same racism that's in Wall Street. It's the same racism that's in music industry conference rooms. It's the same stuff. It's bad jokes and like cluelessness. Like microaggression, bad jokes, and cluelessness. So it's like, why
But
are
it
you...
isn't a systemic like. When
That's
you
what I'm
talk about Wall
saying.
Street.
Yeah, it's not like something that you got to be like, oh, we're gonna cure racism by attacking the skaters first. Do you know what I mean? It's like everyone wants to be a boss and an authority, even though they're just jumping in, and that's how you get the oh, this is I read it. You know, I read someone tweeted that like white people are like causing violence and making black people go to jail for it, and it's like no, there are black anarchists that are also causing violence. That's the point. It's a protest. Like
yeah, because if you go through like various places, it's different people doing different things.
Correct.
And if I decide for whatever reason that I want to go downstairs and break a window, I could tell you what my motives are, but you don't know. Maybe I'm a white supremacist. Maybe I am doing this out of rage. Maybe I'm just trying to
right.
Maybe I'm just trying to steal a grill from my fire escape. You don't know what my motives are, so we can't value what happened there or pass judgment or say,
right.
well, it's okay if this person does it for this reason and this person. No, there's no reason to litigate.
But here's what you do know.
We don't know.
But here's what you do know. Whatever they took is a commodity. It's not a life.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's not a child. Good. It has no it has no shelf life. It is just like people are crying about like you know, vintage sneaker stores being looted, and I'm like, sneakers are made for 5 cents by children in India. 5 cents an hour by like 2-year-olds. Like, are you kidding me? Like, this thing is like, it's like plastic. You know what I mean? It's a physical thing, but it has no value. And the idea that
if you have a, but I'm sorry to cut you off, but
yeah.
if you're a clothing store and you're in New York and you've been closed for the last 3 months and someone just stole your inventory, you're like, thank God. Oh, the best day we've had in months. We can just call insurance and say, we just sold out of our spring collection.
I was going to say, all of a sudden we live in a country that doesn't have insurance anymore. This is what I'm saying. Like, capitalism suddenly doesn't exist when we start to, when we start to march, all of a sudden, like, capitalism becomes, like, this, like, thing that we can mold into, like, oh, if you just like don't break black businesses and you just like give black businesses more money even though black people are outside in the streets crying about their lives, like it's like equating, you know, and that's how you get the my money is as good as anything else. Like, yes,
a fragile nation brought to its knees by 5-finger discounts.
Yeah. God, what if people had just raided the Claire's?
Capitalism.
You know what it is? Looting needs a PR spin. They need to show like young people looting like a Claire's, like all the places we used to steal from, like looting a Claire's or like the H&M like jewelry section or like the Target, you know, like all the places we all used to steal from. If they just show people stealing from there, people will feel nostalgic and then be like, oh, TBT to when I also used to loot the mall.
Well, you are correct though, because the looters, or we could call them shoplifters, but the people who are rolling around New York are tiny. They're like 15 years old. So to have this thing like, well, they are doing this to the movement. They're kids. A lot of them are like literal like middle teenagers.
Yeah, and
we can't say any movement or anything can be defined by the actions of a couple of teenagers.
But optics are big and symbolism is big, and I agree. You know, like I think I've opted out of the looting debate, but we've been talking about the looting debate because it really captures your imagination, right? Because the optics of it are significant and it is a form of its own protest. But you're right, like even on TV last night on CNN at like 1 a.m., they were just talking through the strategy of the small group of looters. Like they're just blending into the crowd and they're ducking into targets and then they're ducking back into the crowd, you know? And it's a really simple tactic and it's a handful of people. And now there's a bit of peer pressure within to stop these people from doing that. So protesters are now becoming the police of these protests, right?
Now, Marv, bring up the telestrator here and you'll see that the left flank seems to be approaching Stadium Goods.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They're just trailing the marchers, right? And darting into shops and then blending back in like a Ben Affleck movie in Boston.
Yeah, this is my favorite part. This is what, like, we're talking about distraction. This happened with Amy Cooper, too. It's like, you're protesting to defund and or abolish the police. You shouldn't be abolish the police, but whatever. Your opinion, your own. Like, you're protesting to defund and abolish the police, so then you're delivering people who are protesting to the police. What?
Also, the NYPD
What?
the NYPD isn't stopping looting. They are
No, they're
fucking
not.
up protesters. They're
Correct.
gassing people. They're bullying people, and then
Correct.
they're letting the looting happen on purpose.
Correct.
All those kids who broke into the Adidas store the other night, the cops were there watching. They let them do it because they want the damage.
Correct.
It's a really, really remarkable role for a law enforcement, which does not answer in this situation to the mayor or the city or the citizens or the people or even commercial interests. This is solely a strategy to destroy a city to consolidate their own power. And maybe in retrospect, maybe having a autonomous militarized police force in a city that doesn't have crime, maybe that was going to backfire at some point.
And this is the thing, like, when you see that happening, when you see, like, this is the information that can't get to people because everyone's trying to be their own reporter rather than being like, how can I amplify? You know, people say, I'm going to amplify the voices of black women or people on the ground, and then just amplify the voice of whoever says the thing that looks good to them. So like, and it's, again, it's the same knee-jerk reaction we've been talking about. You open Instagram, you see someone that you, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and segue right into this little douchebag. You open Instagram and you see someone like a Virgil, and they're saying like, oh my God, people looted my friend's store, people work so hard, blah, 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 blah. Your emotional reaction immediately is to what he's emoting, right? So you like read it and you're like, oh man, that does sound fucked up. That does sound sad. And if you don't take a second to interrogate that for yourself and be like, wait, what's the context of this person's store being destroyed? Oh, because we're in the middle of a protest and riot about black lives being, like black people literally being murdered in the street. Yeah, I'm going to go with that sounds about, in the context, I understand why that happened. Instead of it being like, oh, Virgil wrote a sad post, it made me feel sad, so I'm just going to retweet him because I trust him and I trust the emotion that he just made me feel. That's all it is.
Maybe part of it is someone like Virgil not necessarily knowing the impact that he has.
Correct.
Because he may not be interrogating these thoughts. He may not be putting it out in a well-formulated idea that he even values himself.
Well,
As you said, it's him emoting. Oh man, my friend's store, that sucks. Let me put that up.
I can't mince words. It's not that he doesn't know the impact that he has. It's that he doesn't interrogate his stuff, so he says dumb things. If you don't interrogate what you're saying, you're going to sound stupid. And so many people who have platforms are so obsessed with the idea of the platform they have that rather than assuming the responsibility is I should interrogate my own policies consistently, they're like, oh, I have a platform, so however I feel, I just have to wait until I feel it really intensely, and then I can say it. And then if anybody doesn't agree with it, then I can defend it based on my intense feelings and like my personal sense of empathy.
I mean, we see this all the time, right?
Yeah,
And
we see
not
it
even
in all
this.
levels.
It's this idea, and look, I don't want to sound like a boomer and say it's part of millennialism because it happens to every group. It's just that these are the people that we surround ourselves with. This idea that how you feel is right, no matter if it is or not. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel that way, so therefore it's justifiable. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. It's like, yeah, but your feeling might be wrong.
Correct.
You're not interrogating where that feeling comes from.
You
just feel a certain way, and you're going to say, because of that, then there's a truth to it. And it's like, that's my truth. I'm like, not really. Not always.
Listen, think about, I have 10,000 something followers on Twitter, right? I only know that because they keep putting it in my face every time I log in. It's like, it's not something I was looking for. It's something like, if you see, I think I follow less than 300 people now because I just like, the noise is like so low for me. And like, so many people come to me and say, oh, you are like someone whose account I follow. You're someone who like is always making me think about these things, is always making me interrogate XYZ. And like, I always say to them, I'm like, I put in so much work. The more people that follow me, the more work I put in behind what I say. Like, I know that I say things that I say in my own voice, but the reason that I can say them in my own voice is because I went through the trouble of interrogating my voice, and I do it every day. Like, when people first started protesting, I saw someone post something about looting that sounded and made me feel good on the inside, And then I was like, actually, when I break down these words, you are kind of sympathizing with the government, so I'm just gonna not retweet that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I do that every day. Like, the reason I'm able to bring people so much information in real time, and I'm not afraid of being wrong. If I'm wrong, I just delete it. Like,
That is the cookies ethos.
Just
Not
delete
being
it.
afraid of being wrong. We're wrong constantly.
Think about how easy we have it. We can just delete whatever we said that was wrong. Like, we don't have to like see ourselves like on the news being loud and wrong. like we just get to delete it. And like, okay, they screenshot it, whatever. You can just sit back. You can just literally type, "Yo, that was wrong. I read a book and I like changed my mind."
But that's the seduction of the centrism, right? Is that this sort of kind fascism or feel good fascism where you don't want to rock the boat but you have empathy for people, but like let's not go too far. Let's not upset the apple cart. We'll say that there's a bad apple that doesn't ruin the whole batch or whatever analogs that I'm mixing together here in a big apple sauce. But this idea, it's seductive to say things aren't really that bad. Like, let's just handle this. We're the 98 Bulls.
Well,
yeah, I know Pippin's going to have surgery, but we're going to be good. We're still going to win the title.
Well, here's the thing. Can I just say something that I think is really optimistic, and I hope that
But we're the
people will hear
99
it?
Bulls.
People don't have imagination anymore.
Knicks.
Like, everyone needs to Jerry Krause. You need a lot of imagination. Like, try to imagine a team that doesn't exist yet. Like, that's the one thing everybody said about, like, The Last Dance, right? Jerry Krause was like, you know, he looked like he was probably a cheese face bitch, as one would say. But he was a great GM because he was able to imagine something that didn't exist yet. And that's what we're trying to do.
Start with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, is there a
he's
Michael
like, I'm going
Jordan
to start
out
with
there?
this dude. And then he's like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, this dude is like the greatest player ever. So like, let's just, let's give him a championship team. And let's, you know what I mean? It's like, you
Which
have
is
to
a-
see
yeah,
something that's
difficult
not
task.
there. Like, we're trying to build a world that probably won't have capitalism in it. So a lot of people are going to like have to decide what a fair world looks like when they're not allowed to make more money than other people.
And you made a great point about imagining things and sort of willing them into existence as if we're, you know, using the secret in a way. Because I think we talked, Andrew and I, a few weeks ago, and I used the phrase defund the police, defund the NYPD. I had never heard people use that before. And I'm certainly not saying I coined it. I'm saying my thought was being processed as other people's thoughts were being processed about this. And it was a logical conclusion.
Correct.
Because we've been talking about defunding ICE. So it was an idea that was applicable to cops when you're looking at how money has been spent and the austerity of government that applies to everything except for law enforcement. And it was something that I thought of and was collectively thought of, and now it's something that people say. And
Right.
we
That's-
talk about it as a solution.
Correct.
We
But not
did
for
not
nothing,
talk
that-
about it.
That was a Rodney King thing, right?
That's what I was
Like,
about to say. This is the thing. You came to that logical conclusion because it is the logical conclusion. The next step when you come to that logical conclusion is to assume somebody else already got there before you. And that's the problem with all of the like the rush to like do you know, show people that you're thinking. It's like, if you got to this logical conclusion that the police should be defunded, that means that anyone who's ever thought about how to get rid of the police has gotten to that conclusion, which means that any organization that has been doing this work before has already had that conclusion long before you. So what's the best thing to do? Walk into the classroom, sit in the back, take notes.
And I think the big jump is, like, I always think about this in terms of, like, music and even painting. It's like, is music dead? Is painting dead? And the answer is no.
No.
Right? A profound no. And I think the jump that we made in our lifetime was technological.
Yes.
And the idea that we came up with after Rodney King was like, should we defund? And then a whole industry kind of bloomed from there about statistics and social behavior and all these things. And put that on top of the internet and technology and statistics, and you have a different version of defund the police, right? And that's some Jasper John shit. It's like, do something to something, now do something to that, and then you have a new idea.
Yeah, like a portion of the black box thing that I saw being discussed was that they wanted to give people time to call in about the police budget that's being passed. I think it's today or tomorrow or this week. There's a like 3.5 billion police budget being passed by the mayor of LA, Eric Garcetti, and like this is now the time to act. Obviously in the momentum, correct. Like every time I hear Mayor Garcetti, I think about The Wire.
Yeah, it's a cop ass.
Like I just think about The Wire. I'm always like, wait, are you guys talking about The Wire, dude? Like he's not real. And then I just moved to LA. Like I just made 3 years in LA. So like I just learned the name of our mayor in a real way. You know what I mean? Like I was like, wait, we haven't been talking about The Wire this whole time. Like,
and your boy Michael Moore. Ooh, that was rough yesterday.
I mean, you still are very loyal to Bill de Blasio, of course.
Yo,
Your man.
dog,
man.
someone needs to write like a billion, like there needs to be the West Wing, but just about being the mayor of New York. Because I think we have ample evidence that everyone after David Dinkins is just just became a raging maniac.
I mean, people forget that de Blasio was a lifetime hack in city
100%.
council. A hack.
100%.
Dude did not seem to have any ambitions. He had nothing. No one liked him. He was not popular. But then when Anthony Weiner went down, they needed a white guy because you had Christine Quinn. I forget else who even was running at that time.
Right.
De Blasio was polling at like 3%. All of a sudden, Weiner went out, and they're like, oh wait.
And
there's a
I'm
white
so
guy I
mad
can
at
vote
Weiner
for.
because I could have forgiven Weiner being a diabolical freak, but I can't I can't. But then like you're like talking to young, I mean, like then you're being like predatory and like fucking abusive. Like I can't fuck with that. So like I don't romanticize Weiner because I'm like. When you left my house, you took a shit in front of you took a shit in my kitchen and you left my house. So I don't like miss you, but I do get so annoyed and enraged at how like someone like Anthony Weiner who had policies and things in place could be so easily replaced with someone who had nothing.
Yeah, I didn't have any strong emotions about the diabolical freak Anthony Weiner. I didn't really.
I didn't have any until I didn't think it was until he like got caught. Wasn't he talking to like underage girls?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Showing
I was like,
feet
that's
in
that's
racial
what.
chat
Yeah,
rooms.
that's what. Definitely in racial chat rooms showing feet. Like, oh my God, Nori needs to record that. Like the world needs the soundbite of him saying it out loud. I know he's gonna do it on the next Drink Champs episode where he tries to get Doja Cat on, but like, I just need him to like say it into the mic so that I can save it as my ringtone, even though my phone is on Do Not
Nori's
Disturb.
ability to coin memorable phrases. I think I
Fantastic.
say General, Emmanuel,
Yeah,
Rock
yeah.
Emerald, like once a week. For the
I
last,
definitely say La Plaga, like that La Plaga.
Oh yeah, yeah. Where's Capone? Have you heard from Capone in the
They
last
left him on the
decade?
roof after one of their photo shoots.
Listen, he really
Yo,
did.
I like those records, man.
Capone seems like the partner that was like, "Hey man, just call me when we need to make just call me when I need to be in a photo, like, or we need to make some music."
He also just kept going to jail repeatedly, which
Yeah, he did some
seem
time,
to derail his rap career.
Yeah, he
Was
was.
it just like racketeering? What was he doing? Was he selling drugs? Was it guns? I'm sure it was guns. The CNN
mean-
album cover, right?
It definitely feels like there's gun possession in there, and I vaguely remember something about him getting caught with a gun.
Yeah, and I mean, you know how New York and guns work. No gun control, but punitive gun laws.
Yeah.
I mean, I always think if you want to get gun control in America, just take the guns away from the cops. Watch
I
everything
mean,
fall in line.
literally, that would be the very first step. I can't imagine. There is no other first step. And this is what I'm saying about, like you said, like, if you think about things logically, you get to the first step. And if you get to the first step, then you just look around and go, somebody else had to think of this before I did. Because I haven't been working on this all my life. And I know that people have. And then
If you
you
don't
just
want to
find
go
the
to
people
war
that
the
think
Billy
that.
Club,
Yeah.
you better do something about
Wait,
these
wait,
gun
wait.
laws, man.
So how have you guys, I love this because obviously I'm talking to a white man and an Asian man, but how have you guys felt about everyone's statements? Like, I think I have a group chat where we've been like screenshotting not just like public statements from companies. Also hilarious, like we just went through like 3 months of everyone being like, we're in this together. Please buy a Toyota while you are stuck at home during the pandemic. Please don't forget about your cooking oil company while you're in your house hoping not to die.
That big.
Oh, you should be a
Bertolli
voiceover
energy.
actor. That's really good.
I'm gonna buy some Bertolli right now, man.
Are you short of
bought
Are
a
you
Toyota.
short of breath? Don't forget Newports. We're in it together.
I should have started smoking.
In these uncertain times,
these-
you
oh
may
my
need
God.
a Miata.
Some
Yo, that's
dip.
my favorite. Oh no, my favorite is when they do like, we're here with you, helping, educating, supporting. Like the 3-second pause between each word, you're like, what's happening? You're
And
like,
then
are
when
you
want
hugging
the
me?
mic drop is more than ever. Now, more than ever.
Now more than ever, Gerber baby food.
Cookies Hoops Basketball Podcast.
How
Now,
More than
But
ever.
the
More on
funny
vacation than
part
ever.
is everyone's making fun of like the big brands doing it, but there's also like a section of your white and non-black friends who are sending their black friends similar scripts that are like, "Hey, I'm just so upset and I don't know what to do, but I know that today is the first day of me being angry. And I just want to say to you that I stand with you and I love you, I miss you, and I'm holding space for you." And you're like,
I'm sending all my black friends that copy paste if I don't have the bandwidth for this
listen,
right now.
I'll give you guys the behind the scenes and show you the screenshots when we later on. But like, when I
hear
tell you,
but
it's
I
a
don't
script.
have the bandwidth for your protest.
Yeah. My favorite is when they go, "I was thinking about you," and you're like, "So I was the first black person that you thought of, but I haven't
It's like
spoken to
now
you."
you're gonna think about me.
Correct. I was like, "I haven't spoken to you in 5 years," or "You're my coworker," or like, "You're literally my accountant." Did you see the guy? Did you see the person that was like, "My therapist emailed me and asked me how they could be a better ally"?
And then they charged me $100.
They were like, "I canceled my next appointment and I found a new therapist." I'm like, yeah, like you, like people aren't even yo, people started sending me random Venmos
Yes, I like this.
That's nice.
and
Come
like,
up on some Venmo
and like,
cash.
yo, the thing is like, yeah, like obviously I'm a scammer, so at the end of the day, I'm
know we
never
love
gonna be,
scammers,
as I
man.
say, I'll never be mad at random cash. Like I'm not the person, you know, like how people are like, you have to turn in $1 million to the police because someone's gonna come looking for it. I'm like, when they come looking for it, we can discuss it. Like,
I'll
I
cross
mean,
that bridge.
aren't you from Flatbush?
yeah,
I mean,
There you
like,
go. Wikipedia
come
has it all, right?
I mean, credit card scams are from the groundwater.
listen.
It's a culture there, man.
When I was in
A culture is
college,
not a costume.
when I was in college, I got a job at a bank, and let me tell you, I had to like stop talking to some people for like a few months until I got fired because I was like, just talking to you is probably illegal in the terms and conditions of my job. People would be like, "Oh, you work at a bank? I'm gonna talk to you later." My friends would be like, "Oh, you working at the bank? I'm gonna call you later." I'm like, "Don't call me. Don't call me. Don't call
love it.
me. I don't want to scam the bank. I just want a job so I can buy drinks at
Right.
Odeon. Like that's it. Like I don't want to scam." So yeah.
I went out for drinks at table 50, and now I'm convicted of a federal crime.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted a Ferragamo belt, and now I'm going. And now I'm in like a Fed case. Like, please.
Now I'm in a white collar prison golfing.
Oh, well, so
Like-
speaking of uneasy allies,
Yeah.
I went to a silent vigil, not a silent Virgil, but a silent vigil at McCarran Park in like Williamsburg, Greenpoint yesterday. And it was nice. People got on one knee, and it was all silent for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, and people kind of were there. And then it was I would say it was largely a Caucasian gathering, but not solely. And then it turned into a march, which was great, because after we stopped doing the moment of silence, you felt like we should actually do something now.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
let's get a little more active and not just feel inert. So we started walking with the group, and the group really, I would say it became thousands of people. I don't know the exact numbers, I couldn't tell, but it was probably 6, 8, 10 blocks full of people walking. And again, the demographics were like at least majority white. So the route we took went through Bed-Stuy. and I thought we were going to Barclays, but we didn't. We ended up like on like Rochester Ave. It was like way out, like towards Broadway Junction. And then we didn't know where we were going, and it was close enough to the curfew that we ended up turning back. But a very interesting dynamic of walking through like the projects in Bed-Stuy with a largely white group of people chanting Black Lives Matter.
And it's like,
and it was interesting. It was interesting, and it was a residential neighborhood. I will say, like 40% of the people just immediately went live. Who were on the sidewalk, they're like, "Oh my god, I'm going.
they're like white
going
people,
live.
They're like the
Going
white
live."
people here, y'all.
I mean, there was a lot of enthusiasm, people, you know, yelling from roofs, on the sidewalk, from cars. Like, it was a very positive experience overall. But it was an interesting dynamic that I don't think has really occurred maybe many times in America.
Correct.
To be honest.
Because you got to think, and then like the thing to take from that is not like, you know, there are people who would look at that and critique it and whatever, but it's like the thing to take from that is, okay, we did this march, we walked through a black neighborhood. Did it make us feel weird? Did we feel like, why am I delivering the message to the people who need to hear it, or am I delivering like what, like, because here's the thing, you can march through the black neighborhood saying Black Lives Matter if your march is to make people in that neighborhood feel like, yo, we're out here for you, and this moment is like a peaceful moment where we're marching through and letting y'all know that like there are people out here like holding up the baton for you.
It definitely felt like that.
You know what I mean? And then
that was absolutely the energy. I
correct.
would say.
And that's great energy. And then it's like, that's great, but they don't need that like every day. You know what I mean? So like the next march, where do we want to go? Where do we want to take that energy? And what is the and that's the thing. People don't want to change their minds on the fly. And I think that that's what the beauty of protest is, actually. Like the glory of it is that you can change your mind in real time. Like, it's peaceful because there are kids and there are dogs here. The police show up, we got to get active. It's empathetic because we're walking through a black neighborhood and we recognize that we're white people yelling at the people who already know this, but we're here to show support and empathy. Or we're in a white neighborhood where we're trying to get white people to have like a really bad day and hear what we're fucking saying. You know what I mean? So there's like tone to it. There's everything. There's nuance to all of it.
It was absolutely support from the people who saw it. For sure. People were happy. People would roll along for a couple of blocks, even join the parade. The only downside was that we stopped for a little while, maybe too long, and we accidentally turned a church into a spot for succulents. And that also sells Southwestern throw rugs. Like,
oh my God.
Oh, shit, I told you, keep it moving.
Yeah. That's so God. It's like
I hate when that happens.
That like yeah. I mean, like everyone's learning. I just keep trying to like impose that on everyone. You are learning. Give yourself all the respect and all the space and dignity of learning something. Like when you're learning about whatever it is that you're interested in, whether it be like your weird, like if you're learning about like smooth jazz to impress people, you take your time. If you're learning about basketball so you can play a pickup game, you take your time. So it's like, take your time and like pay attention in real time. And I am so tired of seeing people just be like, that sounds really good, I'm going to repeat that. Especially with what you were saying, Quo. We're living now in a technological world where like we constantly see what people are saying. Not only do we see it, but it's like literally regurgitated to us in like sans serif font and like deep Pantone. Like if we come up with a phrase right now on this podcast, somebody will hashtag it and put it on the New York City subway in the next 3 weeks.
Diabolical freaks.
Yeah, diabolical freaks. He was out here being a diabolical freak.
Yeah.
So Nikki, why do you think this particular killing? I mean, there are several, but this murder, the one of George Floyd, why do you think it's picked up steam to the point where you have people marching in New Zealand and Berlin, and I think there's having one in Iceland? Well, why has this become so global in a way that perhaps the murder of Eric Garner did not?
I think it's a cross-section of a few things. I think we are coming upon 4 long years of having to really, really, really defend, think, speak on like our political issues. You know, we're at a point where you can't get away with just being like, I'm conservative, and people are like, oh, I don't know what that means. They're like, no, that's a dog whistle to me, my king. But it's like we've gotten to the point where people we've been dealing with this language for the past 4 years now because we just have had to, like, we're in a crisis. And I think a lot of people think of it as George Floyd's death is the one death, but this goes back to something I was saying to you earlier, which is this is not the one death. This is the 9th death in 9 days. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think what's happening now is everybody's home, right? So we've all been home and very focused on the news, like very focused on our information channels, very focused on like what exactly is going on outside. And so to have you wake up and I can't even, who do we start with? Ahmaud Arbery? That feels like 100 years ago.
1,000 years ago.
It feels like
Jesus.
1,000 years ago. And that's what started this. So Ahmaud Arbery started this. And then it was Breonna Taylor. And Breonna Taylor was right up next. And you know what I mean? Like, and we have and like, by the time we got to George Floyd, people were home every day being like, yo, why every fucking day I open my Instagram, there's another black person's face on my freaking timeline. And so you have what black people were feeling every day, what we've been feeling all the time, because this is part of our life and like part of how we process information about our existence. And you have a bunch of people who are home who are like, holy crap, like 9 times, like what the hell is going on? And it's like, that's what always happens. It's like whenever that information is put out in a very fast and frequent way, so that people see it in its actual real time. Like, you know, it's one thing to say people are being murdered with impunity. It's another thing to literally physically watch people be murdered with impunity every day. Like think about the fact that we're protesting Black life, and they just shot David McAtee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think part of it is also the crossover appeal, for lack of a better word, is that our state, our government, basically said fuck you for the last 2 months in a way that other countries did not. Ours said, fuck you. You're not getting money. We're not helping you. You're all unemployed. Like, suck a dick. Like, our government just, to everyone collectively. And to some people, they wanted to say, I want to get back to work. Open it back up. That was their response. But for everyone else, it was like, well, we've been abandoned. We've got nothing. And then here comes the one visible state actor, a brutal militarized police force killing innocent people. And not only was it an innocent person, it was a black man. And the same people, the same demographic that has been disproportionately affected by COVID. And I think if you draw these things together, there is a huge groundswell of anger towards abandonment. And all we get from America is a brutal police force that's killing and gassing and bullying citizens. That's all we get.
That's all we
Nurses
get.
in plastic bags, and our government is just a guy punching you in the face.
Well, I think, Ben, your question is really interesting, right? Because we've talked about this before on Cookies. I think America was created as a country with flaws, and it was created incorrectly. And I think the systemic racism of this country goes back to our forefathers and the founders of this country. And that's a deeply American issue and flaw and problem. But when we take it to a global context, they have other issues, and their own inequities. And I think, America is like an apex influencer. Like, it is the most influential country on earth. And what we saw in 1996 was kind of not... It happened here with Trump, but it was kind of happening all around the world. Taiwan was going through this. We had Brexit. Germany was fighting this off. France was fighting this off. Something happened in the last decade where there was a movement on earth. Egypt was going through issues. The Middle East always. It's like this new economy with technology was creating a different kind of xenophobia, and was creating a different tenor in the world. And I think what we're seeing in reaction to that is soccer players, people in London reacting to this murder that happened here in the US, being like, fuck this, man. Brexit is the worst thing ever, And it's a response to a global movement that it's hard to pin down because there's so many cultures speaking at the same time, right?
It seems fundamentally tied to just injustice, and wherever you are, there might be a variant on that. But it's the same song.
Well, here's
That
the thing.
is our thing.
If you follow the history of capitalism, if you follow the history of the actual system, then when you build the connective tissue between America, racism in the global south, racism in Europe, racism, then it's not hard to make the connections. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you have to remember that black bodies have been seen as commodity all over the world for hundreds of years. You know what I mean? Like America was the perfecting of a test that the whole world was already trying out. Everyone was like, yo, what if we just go to Africa and take these people and just sell them and make them build stuff for us for free? And then we could just like save on profits. And what did that become? Capitalism. And then people were like, we're just going to go to America where the king can't take a portion of the profits that I'm exploiting off of others. And we're going to perfect it.
We have to be aware of this.
Correct.
Like sports
literally
is very important in this discussion, right?
So, exactly. So it's like you're watching, like, America was the perfecting. Like, okay, remember when I love that you called America an apex influencer, because I think this is a great way to think of it. Remember when all the people who were influencing found out that real influencers got paid to post stuff that they pretended they just liked?
Totally, right.
And everyone was like, oh my God, I've been posting flat tummy tea and paying my own money, and this bitch gets flat tummy tea for free and gets $5,000 to post it and doesn't even have to drink it. And I'm like, yeah, dummy.
Yep.
It's called capitalism, you stupid. Like, capitalism isn't about, like, how much money can be made. It's about, do you think you should make more money than the next person? And are you willing to do whatever it takes to do that?
I've been tagging all birds in my photos for like 6 months for nothing.
You remember? They were so mad. They were like, Kendall Jenner doesn't actually drink Pepsi? And you're like,
they put,
no.
A furniture maker put,
go ahead, Quo.
Quick story. A furniture maker put a table in Max Fish when it was on Ludlow, and it was a blank wooden table, and taggers tagged it up. Iraq was all over it. People put pins in it, did drawings. So in 2 weeks, it was just covered with graffiti and drawings with like these little pins and tacks that were around. And they took it and sold it for like $25,000.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what the fuck? I thought that was
and they're
part
like,
of the fish.
No,
it's
they're
like,
like,
nah.
authentic Max Fish table. One of a kind. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what?
That was a good idea. That was a good idea, though.
Can I? I'm gonna bring
Yeah.
this to you guys because obviously you guys have my favorite merch, and this is something I was like literally trying to explain
Gotta
to
send you a
people.
box.
I was trying to. I basically only wear cookies at this point. How you call it? Like I was explaining this to people. Like a lot of my friends, black friends, had to like get on the phone with their companies and explain why like making a commercial piece. Like making a piece of merch or a commodity to sell to donate money is a waste of time and a middleman situation. And like I think it's really hard for people to understand this again in the world that we live in, where it's been told that like money is the ultimate value. So the more money you can give personally from yourself, the more value you have, which is incorrect. Like that's not how things work. Like we've all been literally we just spent the past 3 months, we've all been paying each other's rent. Can we just be honest about that? Like, we've all been paying each other's rent. We've all been taking care of each other. We've all been buying each other groceries. Like, so it's like, there's this like real call that people feel where they're like, I could donate 10,000 or I could create a t-shirt and get people to give me 60,000 and then I would donate 60,000. And I'm like, yeah, that works if you're like the hero of the MCU universe, but like you could just give money and tell people you gave money and then they'll give money and then the money will just get to the people who need the money faster, rather than I'm gonna wait 6 weeks to go through the production schedule of like creating a tea, making a tea, and then getting these people this money like at a much later date, when I've also benefited from the revenues of ad sales of posting about the shirt, the revenues of ad sales about where I'm selling the shirt, and also I get a write-off because I gave a giant donation through my corporation.
Right. And me and Ben have debated this a lot. Remember when Obama came out and was like, this is the new philanthropy, helping each other out. And we were like, yes, but also fuck you.
Yeah,
we need
what?
help from the government.
Yeah.
The government needs to help us. And us arguing with each other about how we protest and us arguing about how much money we give each other, I'm like, this feels so mean because like with the stimulus package, like, a lot of wealthy people got tax deductions, and we're arguing with each other about like, did you give $50? Virgil, did you give 20,000? I'm like, yo, there's people, if you just look up, there's people with money that we need for them to kind of unlock a little bit for our society to work. And this is a thing I love about Bernie Sanders, you know? It's like unlock that money.
But here's
so
the thing.
we can distribute it.
You unlock that money by forcing the middle people to do it too. So like we don't hang out with rich
100.
people. We don't hang out with rich people. So I can't find Bruce Wayne and like, Bruce Wayne, slap, slap, open your purse, slap, slap. Like,
Well, you do hang out with nightlife
I mean,
Batman, so,
yeah,
so you kind of got the best of it.
this is true. This is true. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to be at Kanye's house to be like, Kanye, what the hell did you do? But Virgil will. Don C will.
True.
Kanye will be at Trump's house. Jay-Z will be at Roger Goodell's house. So, like, I need the people that are in proximity to them to, that's what shames them. Do you understand what I'm saying? They don't care if we're giving $50, they can give $50. And of course, I'm not saying all rich people are not giving money. I don't even know why I'm disclaiming that, because fuck rich people. I don't need to disclaim anything for you. But like, yes, you can do that in silence. I believe in silent charity. That's fine. I'm not one. I come from Haiti. I have like a real aversion to the idea of I need to know exactly how much money you gave. But if you're saying that your platform is to inspire others, then you should be transparent. That is what inspires people. And
I agree. You know, just posting up your donations to bail funds clearly inspired other people to do it and peer pressured them into wanting to show that they were giving. And there's no way that those did not thrive in terms
and
of
you
the
peer
amount of money
pressure
that
people
was
of
raised
your
by
peer group.
pressure.
You peer pressure people of your peer group. So I cannot pressure Drake to give $100,000, but Virgil can. Do you understand what I'm saying? I cannot pressure Marshmello to give $50,000, but other DJs can, because they know how much money you make. So if somebody, like, I'm a screenwriter, so if other screenwriters who have worked on shows with me see me donating money, they know that they make as much money, the same amount of money as I do. So maybe in the moment they might not be able to give as much as I did, but they know that they can afford to give it. Because the thing that I'm trying to remind people is the money you donate, you don't even remember it. No one is donating money and taking food out of their own mouths. Like, nobody does charity like that. People give the money that they can actually afford to give. So sometimes that's $5, sometimes that's $10,000. But like, it's like, I don't need you to raise $60,000 or raise the amount of money that you have in your pocket to give. That's stupid.
I mean,
I don't need you to be my mom.
Like, I gave a lot to Bernie, and at no point was I like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
At no point. He dropped out. I'm not like, oh, can I get my
I need that money back.
$1,000 back? Oh.
But yeah, I need you to pressure your peer group. So I don't need you to match my donation, Virgil. That's what my people are doing. I need you to create a donation for the people that make as much money as you can donate. And that's the thing, like, all these apologies and people are bending their back to say, instead of just being like, oh, that was dumb, I see the point of it now, I'm just going to do it right. That's it. So much noise. When
At
everyone
the same
can
time,
just like,
I do agree with Quo, though, that because the idea that a country should survive off of volunteerism
it's ridiculous.
is based on a broken state, which is like, well, we aren't going to watch out for you, but you guys should watch out for each other. Like, this is missing the point.
But also remember, we're talking about redistribution of wealth. So class does matter when we're talking about who should pay for the state. Like, at the end of the day, the labor.
I'm saying,
yeah, like,
I'm with you on that. I'm more saying that, like, when Obama says the new way of giving is
don't talk to me like that.
volunteerism, I'm like, no. There needs to be the government doing this, not.
Yeah, I agree with you. It shouldn't be a movement.
You know.
The movement shouldn't be we need to get celebrities to give more money. Like, if you
Yeah,
want
it
to
should be policy.
if you want to redistribute wealth, it has to be done with policy. It can't just be done with like a aluminum bat running after rich people. I mean, we could do it that way.
There's
But-
a lot of options here.
I was gonna say, if we're gonna do it that way, then we have to talk a little bit of a different strategy. But it's like, if you want it to be a policy change for redistribution of wealth, then it can't just be you every day on Instagram screaming at rich people.
Of course, and that's why wealthy conservatives and a Bloomberg is all about philanthropy versus taxes.
And here's this again with the Virgil thing.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Philanthropy versus taxes, exactly. But it's like, here's the thing again with the Virgil thing that I was saying. Again, yes, everyone has the responsibility to call out people that are being goofy in this time. Know your place. If all you're doing is copying what you saw a black person yell and scream about Virgil in your own voice, nobody needed you to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nuances to the way that we do things, and I'm really interested in watching as people learn more and more and actually, like, invest themselves in some sort of long-term lane in this, like the nuance and the self-awareness of being like, yo, two black women created a thing that went bad. I, white person, am not going to jump down their throats with the rest of the internet because I understand the nuance of what's happening here. My place is to take this shit. Like, I'm going to worry about my Thanksgiving dinner before I go jumping into this shit. Black people got it. They'll let them know what they did wrong. And I think there's something to that. And there's like, that's like what I'm hoping for as the next step, where people can contextualize themselves and be like, I can still make it not about me. What's the next best way that I can make sure to not make this about me?
So my question for you, this is obviously on the same topic, but slightly different, is that, and Quo and I talked about this last week, you hear a lot of people saying, this is terrible, this is sad, this is like a dark time for our country. Where do you fall on that spectrum of this being cause for optimism versus pessimism, etc.?
Nobody knows how they feel. Why is everybody so quick to decide what it is? Like, just say that you don't know how you feel from day to day. I have optimism.
But you hear this a lot. Like, this is such a bad time. This is tragic. I'm like, is it?
No, it's not actually. It's not tragic at all. If you were paying attention, you would see that this is the most galvanized time that we've ever had. We've never had more people trying to learn so much. Like, I'm not saying everyone is learning and we're doing a great job. I don't know if I'm in the place to like make that call. But for all, what I'll say is, here's the thing. I'll say this. All the people that I know that do this for a living and that have been doing it for far longer than I ever will and could ever imagine to, because they have like 10, 15 years ahead of me, are saying that this is the most optimistic time. So I'm going to take their word for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I agree with that.
And that's, again, there's always an elder for you to look back to. You don't have to make any of these decisions yourself. You don't have to figure out all of these things yourself. There are people who have been working on this stuff for a long time, and they write it all down. Like, you don't even have to call them or find their phone number. Like, they write it all down. They write it, or they tweet it. So I think...
you can go and look at literature from the 60s that were written by people who were freedom riders. You know... You can find what John Lewis and Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, what people were saying in very similar situations.
There's poetry for the helplessness you feel. There is art for the sadness that you feel. There is music for the optimism that you feel. There is reading for the galvanizing that you want to do. There's so many resources and materials that black people alone have created to explain this. And because we knew that whenever everybody came to our side, one thing that you'll never be is black. So you'll never understand the fundamental, like this, the rod that keeps my spine straight does not exist in your spine. But I can tell you what it feels like, and I can tell you how to walk tall like me. And all you have to do is listen to me. And listening to me doesn't mean like deciding when you should ask me or when I should tell you. It's being like, yo, if you've been living this way your whole life, you gotta have written it down somewhere. I could probably just read that, you know? So there is material for every emotion you feel. There is material for every up and down that you feel. But the idea to me, to call this the worst time in history is elitist. Because the only people having the bad time are the people at the top.
Well, I was going to say it was worse the day before.
Correct. The only people whose future is looking real terrible right now when this stuff happens is people who are on the wrong side of it. So when I hear pessimism, what I hear is like defeat, and I hear elitism. I hear like suppression.
Yeah.
I hear suppression.
Well, when Ben asked me that question last week, I was like, the first part of it is a heartbreaking crime and tragedy that occurs over and over. And the second part of it, at the time, the looting hadn't started, but the protests had. I found it kind of melancholy because this is systemic suffering, and it goes back to the origins of our country, and it's amazing how it comes up and bubbles up when something really bad happens, like Rodney King, I remember, and I brought up Tiananmen Square, and that's a different experience entirely, but that was so amazing, and I still have that sadness from that historical event in my mind. And, trying to listen to all these people talk about the legislation and the changes that happened after Rodney King, and they were like, we didn't do enough, and we're here again, and this is extremely, extremely frustrating. And I find that deflating, but like not energizing. Do you know what I mean? This is energizing, but there's a hint of deflation.
Yeah, and there has to be. Black people hold that space in our hearts all day. Do you understand what I'm saying? Being black is being like incredibly proud and loving of and optimistic about who you are, and then constantly also holding space for the fact that there is no space for that kind of feeling in the world. Like, people just don't want you to feel that way about yourself. And so this is what I'm trying to say about like why it's so important to read and learn, because the elders teach you how to hold that. They're teaching you how to, they're like, oh yeah, you feel weird, right? Yeah, that's because this is a weird thing. It makes people feel weird. And you learn how to hold that. You learn the tactics and the skills and the activities and the ways that work that allow you to hold space for, damn, I'm a little helpless and I can't really change this because I'm one person, but I can still be part of people who think that we can change.
And I would also say to people who aren't sure what to do, you can be brave.
Yes.
You can go out in the streets. You can put your body there. That doesn't mean you have to get in a fist fight with cops. It doesn't mean you have to eat a fucking rubber bullet. It just means be out there.
You
and
can
if
go
too
to
gnarly. You can go home.
You can
but just be there. It's empowering to you and other people, and there's strength in numbers.
Yeah, you can go there. You can go to a protest by yourself. That's what I did. I figured out that I don't like protests because I got up and left my house after the Ferguson trial, and I like stepped out and I went walking. I was out there. We did all the way from Times Square down to Washington Square Park. And like by the time I got to Washington Square Park, I was like, I'm glad I did this. I don't like the way I feel in this context. Like, I don't like crowds. I get really weird about white people at protests. Not that I don't think they belong there, but like when I'm looking at them and they look at me kind of weird, and I'm like, literally, we're protesting this. What the fuck? But like
my buddy checked in on one of his friends in LA, and his friend is black, and he's like, are you protesting in LA? What's the vibe? And he's like, fuck no, LAPD are the scariest dudes out there. I'm not going out there. Yeah, it's terrifying, man. And
but I also am telling people, like, you can be brave. You can
be brave. It's what I'm saying. It's like when black people decide to protest, like, this is what I'm saying. There was somebody who was asking me, like, how do you feel about like certain black artists not saying anything? And I was like, first of all, black people don't owe you anything. I don't think any black person has to do one thing or another if we're saying that they're the ones that bear the weight of this every day. Like, it can't be both. You know what I mean? Is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? But it's like, I think it's important for people who have platforms to say something. But also, I think they should only say something if they know what they're going to say. I don't think it's important for you to just say something. I think you should know what you're going to say, because the same way that a platform has the responsibility of, you have ability to reach a lot of people, you also have the responsibility of making sure that you're giving a lot of people correct information.
Yeah. And I find myself, to your point, I find myself thinking like, and Ben's right, go out there. You can do this. But also, keep this energy, man.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are like, whoa, that was a crazy year. I'm like, did anything change? Did you change? Like, and I've just keep this energy going. And like, going out there isn't for me. And I might do it because it's important, I think. But
I'm also just trying to let people know that when you see clips of cops, fucking people up, that doesn't have to be your experience.
It doesn't at
all.
all.
Not necessarily built for that. You can,
and it's not all.
You can go to the march early, and there are children and there are dogs there. Protests follow a pretty similar schedule all over the place. Like, the police never show up during the day because they don't want it. Like, they know what time they want to cause the ruckus. They show up right around time for curfew to get ready to arrest people. They cause unrest. People start getting antsy. They know nighttime is coming, and they know under the cover of night they can brutalize people. They're never going to show up at noon. So if you're scared, or you've never been to a protest before, you don't know what to do, you can be brave. You can step out at 11 a.m., go early and be like, okay, I like this. Okay, I don't like this. Okay, this is not my role. I'm not a protester. So what else can I do from home? And that's it. Yeah. Like, you have to try stuff, though. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, like, try things to, like, figure it out. So I think Ben, like what you're saying is so true. You can also be brave in the way that you do whatever it is you're doing. So like, be brave.
And
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm not
That's
saying
where I
every
can
single
apply.
person has to be in the street.
Exactly,
Every single
but
person's
you
gotta
can
go
be
fight a
brave in
cop.
anything.
But if you're looking at that and you're wondering, should I do it? Hell yeah.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Go try it. Maybe it's not for you, but you might love it.
Yeah.
You might find it empowering.
Last night.
But this is why people post black boxes, right? They're
Yeah.
trying it too, and
Yeah, like-
it's not hitting the same way.
And that's
but they're
okay.
like-
You can be like, that
Yeah,
was not
exactly.
good. I'm going to not do that
Exactly.
again. I'm going to delete that.
Because like the
Yeah.
the march that I was on yesterday, totally peaceful. We didn't even see a cop because they were just waiting for a curfew to hit so they could do mass arrests. And just to go on a quick tangent, the whole deal with all these curfews is so you can do mass arrests. And what you do when you do that is you take people out of circulation, particularly the most hard body, for like 3 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you're de-incentivizing them getting arrested again because they don't want to go through it, so they don't
And
come
it wasn't
back out.
quite enforced last night, but
But
it's
that's
8
that-
o'clock tonight.
But that's the whole deal with
Yeah.
like the mass arrests. That's how you
That's-
defang a protest.
yeah.
You take the most hardcore protesters out of circulation for 3 days and make them not want to come out again.
That's why
That's
that's
the
why
plan.
we're asking for Garcetti to resign, because this is this. If you understand the tactic of a curfew, then you understand the tactic of announcing a curfew as late as possible. And
Yeah,
what they've been
for
doing in
sure.
LA, we are. Do you know that you guys see that we're up to 1 p.m., 4 p.m. First of all, that's not a curfew. That's a shutdown. So let's stop
insane.
calling it that in LA. But like
Yeah.
they literally bumped it up an hour yesterday with 90 minutes to spare, which is the longest amount of time they've given us. Like I woke
Yeah,
from a
it's
nap
a
and
tactic.
ran to the wine store.
It's a tactic.
You know, like not to sound like a privileged Betty, but like I had to get my
Royal
rosé on. You know what I mean?
Hells
Like,
yeah.
I
You're like,
ran.
with a 1 p.m.
Oh my God.
curfew.
Can I give
our
you guys a
brunch-
joke?
Our brunch is a lunch.
Can I give you a joke? So you know,
Yeah.
weed is essential. Weed is a essential store in California. Obviously, I believe in
I'm
that.
down for
I'm not
that.
even saying
Yeah.
that sarcastically. And all the weed delivery services were scrambling because most people order weed. You know, people order weed after work, or even if you're working at home. You know, you think about it at like 6 o'clock or something, and like yesterday or the day before, they had sent out, you know, they did the first day, they did 8 p.m. So then they sent out like all the weed delivery services had just sent out texts that were like, hey guys, just a reminder, get your orders in by like 7:30 tonight, and like blah, 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 blah. And then like right after they sent that, we got a system alert that was like, curfew's been moved up to 5:30 p.m. And I'm like, oh my God. People are probably
Bullshit.
like, these weed delivery services are probably like, okay, no, I can't live this way. Like, I can't, I was about to leave and my boss just dropped like 100 things on my desk.
Oh shit.
But just the one thing I was going to say, going back to the part about the point of mass arrests and de-incentivizing people being out there, is that if you want to get into this, don't get arrested.
Don't get
And
arrested.
What I mean is don't like take that bullet.
Yeah.
And look, getting arrested in these situations is not scary. They'll put a little
Yeah, exactly.
zip tie on your hands. They'll put you in a bus. You'll go sit with a whole bunch of other protesters in like a garage somewhere for a day and a half. It sucks, but it's not scary. It's not terrifying. You'll be fine. But don't take that bullet.
Yeah, that's not like the point. The what we're asking you. This is the thing too. I think people they don't know what they're being asked to do, and it's like, I'm not asking you to throw your body at a cop,
That's
like
what
you
I'm saying.
said.
I'm saying
not
don't,
asking you to get
don't
arrested.
do that unless you were about that life. Don't do that.
Correct, because the people who
You
get
know?
arrested at protests are about that life, and they do
Yes.
know what they're doing. Like, not
Yes,
to say what.
exactly.
Load management, man. Live to protest tomorrow.
Correct.
Not
Yes,
next day.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what
Right,
it is.
they
because-
need the newer bodies to come out every day, because they know
Mm-hmm.
how to. Not to say it's easy for them to get out, but they have a better understanding of the system and how to get to those resources than you do, person who's coming out for the first time.
You're coming out for the first time. Live to come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
things are getting out of control. You're a little worried. It's cool. Back off.
back off.
Protest
Back
self
off.
That's what I'm
care.
saying. You can-
Yeah.
come back out the next day. It's
Protesting
cool.
is about real time mind change. Real time, like, oh, I'm looking down the street and that looks bad. I'm going to change my mind about what I'm about to do.
Exactly. It's okay. Some people are there to get beat up by a cop on a camera and that become iconic and change things in that way. Your job is to come back tomorrow
Yeah.
Yeah.
or come back in 3 days.
Can you
Your job
guys-
is not to get arrested and never protest again because you fear lying on that greasy floor eating peanut butter and syrup sandwiches.
Yo, Can y'all tell me what the Knicks statement was? Because I'm trying not to go. Like, after the Virgil fiasco, once we got to 2 Virgils, I was like, this is going to be the peak of jokes for the rest of the week. I need
2
to,
Virgils was great.
2 Virgils is literally the peak of jokes for the week. But I saw Knicks. I saw Dolan memes, and I was like, I don't have it in me to add this to my roster. So please.
Well, okay, turn off all your lights and light a single candle, and we'll set the mood.
I wish I had my lighter so I could do the little the little way.
Do you want me to read it, Quo? I got it here.
Fuck, go off, King.
It's not that long, so I'll read the whole thing, and it's not that long.
Shout out to Pablo Torre, friend of the pod, who unearthed this nugget.
Yeah,
fantastic,
great scoop. We know that some of you have asked whether our company is going to make a public statement about the killing of George Floyd by a Minneapolis police officer. I want you to know I realize the importance of this issue. Therefore, I want you to understand our internal position. This is a turbulent time in our country. The coronavirus and civil unrest have taken their toll on our way of life. We at Madison Square Garden stand by our values of a respectful and peaceful workplace. We always will. As companies in the business of sports and entertainment, however, we are not any more qualified than anyone else to offer our opinion on social matters. What's important is how we operate. Our companies are committed to upholding our values, which include creating a respectful workplace for all, and that will never change. What we say to each other matters, how we treat each other matters, and that's what will get us through this difficult time. So this was an email that was circulated internally.
Oh, because I was like, there's no way this was an actual public statement.
No, so he wrote this email to all the workers for Madison Square Garden to explain why they were the only NBA team that had not made some sort of statement.
Basketball team. Basketball.
I'm sorry, I said NBA, right?
God.
Anyway, the Spurs did not make a statement, but Popovich went on the record in an interview, and
of course.
that stands as their version of it. So the Knicks are the only team that did not say anything, and this was his explanation for why.
He sent this to the employees.
Yes.
Yeah, and he has donated. He's a Trump supporter, as we know. So he donated $500K, I believe, to his campaign.
Man, he could have really shortened that statement and been like, "Who the fuck is you to tell me what the fuck I should be doing?" Period. Signed, James. Like, that's what he said, essentially.
On one hand with this, however, do we want James Dolan, who gives hundreds of thousands of dollars to Donald fucking Trump, do we want him making some bullshit statement that we will attribute to the organization so that we can give him like a little hand of applause? Like, that was good.
James Dolan.
Who he is.
James Dolan owns the Knicks. James Dolan is not the Knicks. The Knicks is the employer of black people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, James Dolan owns the Knicks, but James Dolan is not the Knicks. If the Knicks is making a statement, there's 30 people in the room that make that statement. It's not James Dolan's thoughts as expressed through the Knicks.
Which is why he's not allowing them to say.
Correct. So it's like double authoritarian. You know what I mean? He's like, y'all can't speak because y'all gonna make me look bad, and I know that y'all don't operate the way that I operate. So that's he's like, it's my team, like, I'm not in a place to speak. It's like, no, the team has a PR company that can put together some words about what it's like to be in a business that runs on black players, black people working in the stadium, Spike Lee being in your goddamn seat. Like, I think you guys can figure that out. It's not about what James Dolan personally thinks. You know what I mean? That's the problem with corporation and person. Like, think about it this way. Nobody said that Louis Vuitton was fucked up because of what Virgil Abloh said. They just said Virgil Abloh was Mr. $50. So it's the same thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Like, nobody was like, oh, Louis Vuitton only donated $50. Like, they didn't say anything. It's like, nah, Virgil Abloh is Mr. $50, Mr. Two Bills.
It's 50.
Mr. Two Bills and a half. Like,
we're just going to call them Verges.
Verges. 2 Verges on the, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, James Dolan owns the Knicks, but James Dolan isn't the Knicks. So the idea that James Dolan's views, if we're going to say that James Dolan views are the Knicks, then we need to stop supporting the Knicks.
Yeah, and I love this team, and I love the colors. I love their flag, you know? Like, obviously the players are my shit, but, like, I love this team, and I know James Dolan doesn't share my politics at all. And what is he, to Ben's point, like, what is he supposed to do? And to your point, Nikki, like, he is not going to be on our side on this, but he is not what I love.
Yeah. I'm not asking James Dolan what he thinks. I'm asking the Knicks
Yeah.
to say, yo, black people spend money. Like, this is the thing about company statements too versus personal statements. That also is another thing that like, technology is making so hard for us. It's like company statements are because the company needs to preserve its consumer base. You're not, you know what I mean? Like, the Knicks, the basketball teams aren't saying something because basketball teams are sentient beings that feel things. Basketball teams are like, y'all spend money with us, so we letting y'all know that your money goes to people that fuck with what you fuck with. Because if you don't spend money on us, we are not a thing. That's it. That's all it is. So that's all you're asking. You're asking for them to be like, we recognize that you are a part of the way we make money.
And this is a hugely a Knicks problem as well, because this is James Dolan saying that I'm the Knicks.
And that's
It's not
always the problem,
players.
isn't it?
Of course, I'm saying this is reflective of a deeper toxicity that is in
Correct.
the marrow of the New York Knickerbockers. Is that James Dolan thinks he's the franchise?
Yeah, just,
Listen, you don't support the Knicks. You don't support burning down churches. You don't support eating bat heads. Ozzy Osbourne, not Wuhan vibes. This is terrible. Okay. My bad.
I liked where you were going with
I saw
that.
where you were going. What you
Diabolical
didn't see
freak.
was the cliff. You didn't see the cliff on your left.
I fell off, man. I'm
You were
sorry.
looking at the wind. Yeah, you were looking at the view. You didn't see
Yeah.
the cliff on your left. I understand.
I got caught up in my own bullshit, man. That was
But-
crazy.
But like, see, changing your mind in real time.
That's right.
But yeah, it's like that's the thing that people forget. And again, it like ties into even what I said about the black box thing and everything else. It's like, what is the context of what you're asking for? I'm asking for a business that I spend my money in and that employs people that are black to say that they see what is happening and to give the momentum that we're having a little more momentum. That's all you're doing. You're just pumping the momentum. Like, a corporation cannot save us. It can't physically do things to save us. It just can't.
And it's also about someone like James Dolan saying, you know what? I give my money to Trump. My beliefs are this, but I employ black people. And the fans of our team are black people. And people who spend money in my stadium are black people. And like this organization, the Knicks, doesn't need to reflect my personal stances.
Exactly.
They can be two different things.
Like, if you support the Knicks and you don't like who I support, that doesn't matter. The Knicks supports you. You don't have to
I think
support me.
that's a very good way of putting it.
Like, you don't have to support me. But
Things don't have to be the totality of all your feelings, and sometimes they're less than total, much less than total. But right, we can, as human beings, we can separate oil from water.
yeah.
And what's also strange about this is considering the Knicks have the most black front office in the NBA.
Literally.
Yeah.
And you're you're New York's
you know
team.
these guys. But
Yeah,
you know
New
these
York
guys.
City,
You know
yeah.
Isaiah, and you know Steve Mills, and you know Perry, and you know the team president, and you know Allen Houston. You're around them. You work with them. Like, how do you not care? Like,
I do.
I'm saying we know why because it's James
Right.
Dolan. But
Yeah,
what
yeah,
sort of disconnect when you surround yourself with black men and you don't give a fuck?
Dog.
Like, it's kind of shocking.
It's literally incredible. And I'm also like, I'm just like, nobody comes to New York to see white people. Like, the glory of New York is that I'm going to live in a place where people get really, really rich and everyone looks so like I get to leave my podunk town and be around a whole bunch of people. Granted, you don't have to interact with them, which is also the appeal of New York. You can like live in a diversity and interact with no one that doesn't look like you. But no one is moving to New York like because of the glory of like the pasty whiteness of New York. Like, it's not San Fran, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's like, I'm moving here because like I can get Chinese food and I can go to the Korean grocer and all that stupid stuff that they always say. Like, so you're New York's
you're right.
team. You're like the
I've-
team of the most, like the city that's known for being like, oh, we have so many different types of people in it. Like,
But that's always been so crazy to me, right? When people will complain about their town changing, like, and now look at it. We have like 2 Mexican restaurants and like an Indian restaurant. I'm like, this is bad to you? You're like, oh, now we have to eat tacos instead of what, meatloaf?
yo, my favorite thing about moving out of New York which you can imagine as someone who grew up in New York, I never actually thought people said out loud, was hearing people be like, I could never live in New York. And I was like, wait, that's like a thing? Like that's an opinion that's allowed to be had? I thought everyone wanted to live in New York, and just like you either did it or you never could do it. Like you either cut it or you couldn't cut it. I didn't know that people were out here being like, I could never live in New York. It's just so many people. We're just so close together. I'm like, yeah, sorry you're like dirty. I'm sorry you have to like touch your toe on the Punjabi bodega. Ooh, like, sorry.
And what I loved growing up here was that, like, the whole, like, I don't see color thing. It's like, oh, we saw color. There was Crown Heights riots. Like, when you go into, like, Punjabi on Houston, you're like, oh, I'm aware not only are you of a different culture, you don't think like me.
Correct.
You don't talk like me. And this is awesome.
Correct.
You know, like, hook me up with your delicious food.
Right.
And that is why I don't think I'll ever move away from New York.
Yeah, people who stay in New York
100%.
stay because of the diversity. Like, people who stay in New
Yeah.
York, like, whether they can put it into words for you or not, like, the only reason you stay in New York is because, like, whenever people are like, I don't want to raise my kids in New York, I'm like, yeah, okay, you want to go raise your kids somewhere where you can, like, strictly, like, where you can measure and, like, strictly see what they learn. Because in New York, you never know what your kids are going to learn. We didn't know. We got on, like, I got on the train in 6th grade. You know, I got on the train when I was 11 years old to start going to Hunter College High School on the Upper West Side. I took a 45-minute commute at 12 years old. My mother didn't know what the hell was going to happen between me leaving my house and getting there. She didn't know what I was going to learn. And then I would come home and be like, Ma, racism is crazy. And she'd be like, I've never even experienced that. I'm like, yeah, I went to get a prosciutto sandwich like on 94th and Park. And they looked at me like I was being a nutter. You know, so.
Wait, Nikki, how's it feel living in LA, being ex-New York?
I miss
Born
home.
and raised in New York.
I haven't missed home in a long time, and I do miss home, but it's a different kind of miss home. Like, it's not a miss home that makes me feel like I need to be there, because I don't feel like me being there would make a difference. Like, maybe to my friends, but, like, you know, like, I don't think that, like, I need to be in New York to, like, save New York. But when I moved from New York, one of the saddest, when I started touring, and I would go away for months at a time and come back to New York, one of the saddest things for me, I would always do a walk at the end of the summer through New York and just look at all the things that were gone, from like Upper West Side down to Soho, over the bridge into Brooklyn. I would just look.
You mean like what changed?
Yeah, like what stores are
turnover?
gone, turnover, all that stuff. The makeup of neighborhoods, like literally be like, whoa,
sure.
y'all people like this live over here now, and
Yep.
this feels like I'm gonna come back. This feels like the next walk is gonna be one of the worst walks ever. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like, I miss home because I'm like, the next time I walk through home, I feel almost like everything that I was holding on to that might still be there. Because remember, I'm not thinking about the changes since like 2017 when I left. I'm thinking about the changes since like, 2001.
Yeah.
So,
And the changes since March.
literally, and the changes
my
since
God.
March. Exactly. So I'm like, damn, this has accelerated that sadness that I get when I come home, and that grief. So I'm like already holding space for grief in LA. For
Remember that walk like down Bedford, right?
Yep.
Where you'd start in Crown Heights and you'd go through a Caribbean neighborhood, a black neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, a Hasidic neighborhood, a hipster neighborhood, and a Polish neighborhood. And it was maybe like every 8 blocks it would change. And now it's kind of all the same except for the Hasidic neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But that was
that.
that was that kind of idea. I love that.
Yeah.
And it goes to what we were saying before. To me, the idea that I could just get on the train and, make a connection somewhere, and 25, 30 minutes later, I could be in Elmhurst, and there are 20 different kinds of like Latin American restaurants within a 5-block radius. And it feels like I've been transported to a completely different place than where I was previously. Is like the charm of New York, that you can know about a little hole in the wall place that sells yak in fucking, Rego Park or something. And like, it's awesome.
Well,
like,
yeah.
I know where, like, Little Pepper, we're going to go out to
Yeah, man.
Deep Queens because that's my spot out there. I love it.
Yo,
and that's what
it's
makes
a
New York
flesh.
amazing.
New York is flesh and body, and like I tell people all the time, like the reason I used to do the walks is you can walk the veins. So you can walk Broadway, you can walk Bedford, you can walk Nostrand, you can go in Queens and walk Union, or like all these streets, and it takes you through, like, you know, every, like Flatbush takes you to from the top of Brooklyn to the end of it. Like, if you stay on that one street, you literally go through the whole borough. And there's tons of that all over New York. Like, Broadway takes you from the bottom of the island all the way to the top. And it's like, it's flesh and body. Like, people follow, like, you follow the veins, and you're like, yo, I'm on the A train. I'm going from Bed-Stuy tonight to Soho all the way up to fucking Inwood. And, like, I'm following, like, what's pulsing to me. And that's kind of like what's...
Flatbush, you can go from Barclays Center to the beach.
Literally. And, like, past, like, 30 different Dallas barbecues and 2 Bashments on the way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, on one bus, on one bus.
Do it on a bike. I was about to say, if you do it on a bike, a dollar bus will drive you off the street about
Correct. You can literally hop on a dollar van.
About 10 times.
Yeah, like, you can hop in a van for $1 and somebody will take you straight to one thing from another. So it's like, that's the glory of the city. And I think that's what makes everyone so... what we're grieving, really, is, like, we don't know what, like, it's going to be a skeleton when we get back. You know, like, whenever this clears, it's like, and that's not a bad thing. That's not always a bad thing. I think we needed to get rid of a lot of trash in our city, like gentrifying trash in our city. So, I don't know, you know.
I mean, this is, like, my fear is, like, what happens after this is, and me and Ben always push this idea, whether we want it or not, things like the coronavirus or this tragedy of a murder accelerates things that were already happening. So when we loot, like, a Whole Foods or an establishment, a Chase Bank is just going to go in its place, and we will just accelerate the movement of these businesses towards things that maybe don't represent our memory of the city. And I spent a long time, like, this week trying to think about, like, what makes a New Yorker a New Yorker. And I think, like, there's a kind of, like, awakening at some point when you realize, to your guys' points, is you awaken to the idea when you see somebody who doesn't look like you and you ask them their life story, it is going to blow your mind, right? Like, if there's a Chinese person in Chinatown who's over 50, or... you know, anyone in these communities, you ask them their life story, and it's just like, it's a little novella.
How did you end up in this crazy place?
Yeah, and this is what I love about this place, and things like this. You know, Nikki, I was thinking about this because I was watching the protests on TV really late last night. I was really proud of New Yorkers, man.
I cried.
And yeah, it was very intense, and I know, you know, you are at heart and deeply a New Yorker, and watching this, I'm always like, Nikki, move back, we need you, right? Like, this is our community, and it sucks to lose people like you to LA, but I get it. And, like, my question to you is, when you watch it, is there, like, are there layers? Like, what's happening? Like, when you see...
I cried when I started crying every time I saw a cop car burning. So I didn't cry at the peaceful protest. I cried it every time I saw, like, when I saw that paddy wagon burning in Fort Greene, I was overwhelmed with emotion. Like, when I saw that, like, burnt out Beetle in Soho, I was, like, in full tears. Like, I was like, I love New York so much. We would literally burn. I'm like, New York. My favorite thing about New York, to me, and that makes you a New Yorker, are you willing to burn New York down to the ground? And every New Yorker, a real New Yorker, will tell you yes, because New York is a city that, like, builds itself over and over and over again. So I'm like, yes, please. Like, do you remember when we were burning down the Bronx in the 70s? Like, and then we became this, and we can burn this down and become something else again. And there is layers for me, because I was saying to someone, like, I was reading a Franny Leibovitz interview recently, and I was like, damn, there's this, like, really, there's this iconic Jewish New York presence, right? There's always, like, an iconic New York Jew. It's just what it is.
What's the deal with New York City?
Yeah, like, there's always an iconic New York Jew, because the makeup of New York is very Jewish. It's a city in the world where Jewish people can really come and be openly Jewish, find really great Jewish community, and, like, we all know, like, everyone in New York is a quarter Jewish in their language. You know what I mean?
Yo, MSG Knicks games, man. Just go to a Knicks game.
I tell everyone. I tell everyone.
God, Jerry Stiller.
Yo, seriously.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, I'm like, my favorite Knicks games are 12:30 p.m. Sunday games because all the Jewish Wall Street guys who like usually come to a Knicks game after work come in their
Right.
like replica jersey with their homies. They bring their son, and it's just like like it's just like you get to yell at the top of your lungs. You're drunk at like
Yeah.
11:30 for no damn reason, and so it's like that to me is the most New York experience, you know. And so I think about all these things like I'm looking at Franny and I'm like, damn, you know what would be great if the next Fran Lebowitz was just a black woman, like another black New York woman who like is like, I'm never gonna leave this city. You can tear it from my fucking dead cold fingers. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, I just have to move back when Fran Lebowitz goes. I was
It's a
like,
good
that's
plan.
my thing. I was like, okay. And then I got scared because I was like, damn, everything's happening so fast. What if I have to move back before I'm ready? But like,
I'm just upset that we've forgotten a dark period of your history. This is Denver erasure.
Oh, wow.
Sorry to expose you. I mean, I remember when you were in Denver for a little while there.
DJ trying to play me. You know what?
The Fran Lebowitz of the Rocky Mountain
How
City.
dare you? First of all, I was. Let's be real. You know Denver was like, what is happening here the whole time that I was there. But also, like, this is so funny to me because this is indicative of how much I'm a true friend of the pod. No one ever remembers I lived in Denver except my people from New York. Everyone from, like, New York is like, didn't you go to like Denver or something? Like,
We're just gonna pretend that never happened.
And
that you weren't,
everyone
like,
else-
a mile above sea level.
everyone from LA.
You moved without winter clothes, right? You
Correct.
had to get winter clothes shipped out to you.
Yo, the best part was like everyone in LA is like, wait, you didn't move here from New York? And I'm like, no, I lived in Denver. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, my New York friends would never let you forget that though. I'm like, all the people from LA are like, Denver never existed. All the people from New York are like, you didn't go straight to LA. You stopped off in the mountains.
Was that for weed or gorp? Like, what were you doing exactly?
I literally went to, so this is hard for me to say, but this is probably the best podcast for me to say this on. I had to leave New York because I was tired of New York bothering me.
Hells yeah. Hells yeah.
Everyone had an idea of what I was supposed to be in New York. I was going to be the savior that saved everyone through kinfolk somehow. I was going to be like the hero that like single-handedly brought nightlife back. And I'm not saying that like to make myself feel self-important. I'm saying that's how people were talking to me. And I was like, yo, I still make $50,000 and I'm 31 years old. Like, I don't know what you guys think I'm doing in New York, but that ain't the life that I saw for myself. Like, I got school loan debt and also I'm tired. I'm tired of drinking 7 nights a week. I don't think I don't think enough people talk about how a lot of people move out of New York because sometimes the lifestyle of New York is brutal. Like, I've been drinking every day since I was like 14 and I worked at a club and I was drinking every night for 7 nights a week. And I was like, I need to go detox. Like, I need to go somewhere where I can go to bed. I told everyone the same thing. They said, why are you moving to Denver? I said, I need to be able to go to bed at 10:30 and wake up to no text on my phone and no feeling that I missed the party or, you know, I was at the point in New York, I mean, Ben knows this, you know this, like, I'm the person in New York who, like, goes to bed and wakes up at 2 a.m. and comes outside. So I was just like, I was like, I don't have kids. I'm not getting married. I'm not having kids. I'm not going to buy a house. I'm not going to do the normal things that people do to let their friends know that they don't want to party anymore. I want to party. I just want to get older. I just want to get older. And I felt like I couldn't get older in New York. So I went to, like, the most boring place in the world so I could have, like, an insane tutorial on how to like be young but act old really quickly, and then
you and Allen Iverson,
correct,
man, 2 greats.
And then I went to and then by the time I got to LA, I was like, okay, I'm a little calmer now. Like, I'm not just coming up off of the like, oh, the rush of New York, which like is what happens when people come to LA and they're like, this place is the most boring place on earth. Like, I gotta get out of here. I was like, I went to a really boring place, and then LA seemed pretty chill. LA seemed like a happy medium between the two. So that's really the, you know, I didn't lose my mind. I didn't suddenly decide to go like chasing white boys in the, you know, at the glaciers. Like I just wanted to go somewhere where I knew no one would be interesting enough to like make me act like a crazy person.
You just had that Patagonia fetish.
Yeah, exactly. I did though. I was like, I was in Boulder, like, damn, these people are racist as shit, but it might be worth it for this fucking cabin. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, these people are dumb as bricks. Did I tell you that? Can I tell you guys the most racist thing that happened to me in Denver? Because it's actually
like a good
fucking
story.
hilarious. So when I was in Denver, I had friends who grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, who lived in New York, who like had a friend who lives in Denver. So like he's like a connect through New York. You know, New York is like, we hate to see you go, but we have resources for wherever you're going. Like, which is exactly what happened. So I meet my friend Dill. He's the best. I love him. I like go back to Denver and hang out with him all the time. This was one of those trips. I moved to LA in 6 days because I just got a job on a show, and then I went to LA and then never came back. And so I went back to Denver to kind of like see everyone and like chill out, have a cool beer. And they were at a bar, and my friend's friends are visiting him from Wisconsin, and one of the dudes is like a blonde white dude, and we're getting drunk, and these girls are like, we should go do karaoke. It's like Wednesday. Like, let's find something to do. And I'm like, oh, if we're doing karaoke, I'm in. I'm a big karaoke enthusiast. I'm trying to figure out how to do like a Zoom karaoke party, honestly, with the homies. Like, and so.
What's your song? What's your go-to? Real quick.
Like my always go-to is probably like.
What brings down the house?
Like Blondie, Call Me.
Tight.
That's my jam. Like, or a Stroke song, which goes with the story right now I'm about to tell. The guy's like, oh yeah, like if we're going to are we gonna do karaoke? Let's do karaoke. I'm like, if we're doing karaoke, I was like, I'm in a mood. I'm wearing a jean jacket. It's raining outside. I'm about to do like 15 Stroke songs back to back. I was like, my hair is all Julian Casablancas right now. I'm wearing Vans. I'm about to get in my bag. And I'm making a joke about it. And the guy looks at me really weird. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I just find it hard to believe that you would know any Stroke songs.
That's some bullshit right there.
Yeah,
come on,
but-
you live with the Strokes. You were here for it, man.
Yo, the best part is I get so angry that my immediate response is, I grew up in the 90s in New York fucking City, and you think I don't know the fucking Strokes?
It sounds like someone was a New York cop.
They ain't that
But
smart.
you know how you know someone white has said something super racist when all the white people jump up. Like everyone, like all the white people jumped up in their seats. Like they were like, whoa! Oh, like my friend literally like jumped up and put his body up against his friend and was like, chill out.
That's like the white version of when you're watching a basketball game and someone gets crossed over and the entire crowd
Oh yeah.
leaps to their feet.
That's
our version
That's
of it.
exactly what happened. But like I always tell that story because I think it's so indicative of, like, remember, I was visiting and they were visiting the same person. So we were all like staying in the same apartment, like staying in the same house. And like this person, you meet someone who's your friend's friends, and like your first comment is, I just find it hard to believe that you would know the Strokes. But that's Denver to me in a nutshell. It's like a bunch of people who got divorced when they were 26, who are just like, how can I live in a liberal place where I don't actually have to do anything for it to be a liberal place?
That statement has such a low upside. Like, there's just like nothing great that could come out of it. It's like, actually, yeah, I'm clueless about popular culture. Like, that's just like
They're also like,
I love to ski. I'm a rock climber. I go to bed at 9 p.m.
that's everyone's favorite phrase in Denver.
I go to bed at 9 p.m.
I'm not crazy about like the idea that the mega achiever wakes up at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So there's like this competitive sort of like just contest to see who can wake up at like the time when you'd actually go to bed. At some point, you're like, I know you're a workaholic, but you're just working the C shift now.
You know what? Tell Jeff Bezos if he can on a Monday. Tell Jeff Bezos if he can on a
when
Monday
you see
night.
Jeff, tell him.
If he can on a Monday night drink at Happy Ending walk through every weird ass bar from LES through Chinatown drinking random rye until 4:30 in the morning.
Random rye.
Get on a train because you don't have no damn sense and take the train down to Flatbush and still wake up at 7 a.m. to go to work. Then you can talk to me about having like a fucking Omega Achiever schedule. Like, I don't give a fuck if you can get up at 2 a.m. because you went to bed at 10. Tell me if you can get up at 2 a.m. after like going to like some like weird Monday party at Le Souk and like being like, I think I ended the night by like literally drinking from the inside of a Grey Goose bottle. How about you?
That sounds about right. Well, with that in mind, our Cookies listeners now have a grail.
They
which
do.
Is happy ending, rye whiskey, Flatbush train, waking up at 8 a.m. Nikki, as usual, it's been an absolute joy having you join
so
us.
lovely to hear you guys. So happy to be back on the pod. Seriously,
Let's do it again.
We'll do it again, and of course, next time you're in New York, we'll take that wistful walk with
We
you.
will. All right, you guys. I love you. Stay safe. Be brave.
Stay safe.
Be brave, as
Be
you
brave.
said.
Thank you.
Cookies.
Cookies.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.